How's it going? This is Dylan with DylanTalksTone.com, and we are getting back on our Floyd Rose sponsored gem project. So with the help of Spurzle, Floyd Rose, and Cruz Tools, we put together, and Dylan Pickups of course, we put together this really cool Floyd Rose Gem Jr. Basically what we did, if you have not watched the other videos, is we basically bought the low-priced $500 Gem Jr. and we did some upgrades to it. And the reason for that, we shot a video about kind of why we did it. You may not do every upgrade on your guitar, but there are a few things that we think are really cool. And over the next week or so, we're going to show you what we did, and we're going to talk about the benefits to this guitar. But today, we want to talk about Floyd Rose setup. That is where we are in the chronology of this project. So anytime you change your strings, you break a string, you make any adjustments at all to the guitar, chances are you're gonna have to rebalance the tremolo, okay? And we know on the internet, we see all the time, how do I set up my Floyd Rose? It's such a pain. I don't even want the thing because it's so difficult. I'm going to show you how in just a few minutes you can set up your Floyd Rose and it basically be right every time. What I'm using is my Cruz Tools Phillips screwdriver, my Cruz Tools feeler gauges, okay? And I use Korg pitch black tuners around here. They're just for the money, they work really well. And so we've got a tuner plugged into the guitar, we've got a screwdriver, and we've got feeler gauges. That's basically all we need for right now. So where do we start? First of all, when we put the strings on the guitar, what I like to do is I like to start with the rear springs in an overly tightened position. Okay, and what that gives us is a condition where the guitar is kind of pretty close to being in tune, but the springs are too tight and the tremolo is too low in the guitar. That's where I like to start. Okay, so with everything kind of too tight, okay? You're not gonna hurt anything, but one of the very first things you wanna do is make sure that you stretch your strings properly, because remember that this whole setup is based on the overall tension of the guitar, okay? So the forces from the tremolo, the strings pulling this way and the springs pulling this way, and everything's got to be balanced. So make sure that you get your strings stretched so that they are kind of where they're going to end up. Now we know that's going to move a little bit, but anyway, stretch your strings. Next, what we're going to do is, since we have this tremolo and it is too low in the guitar, okay, and that's how I like to start. What we're going to do is we're going to take our feeler gauges and we're going to select the correct amount of feeler gauges that work properly to put in between the tremolo block and the guitar. Now I've already figured out the correct width for this. That make it to where the tremolo is level in the guitar, that is completely flat. Now what that's going to do is that is going to flatten the strings, okay? So now what we're going to do, that we have this feeler gauge stuck in the guitar, the tremolo is completely flat, is now we're going to go ahead, use our tuner, and we're going to tune the guitar. Okay, so now the guitar is in tune. Now something I want to mention to you is, in the process of you tuning the guitar with the feeler gauge stuck in there, the feeler gauge falls out or it gets loose, then that means you don't have your springs tight enough to do this process. So tighten those springs up a little bit more and then try it again. The feeler gauge did not pop out, didn't fall out. The guitar is in tune. The feeler gauge can now be pulled out, and what happens? All of a sudden, the guitar pops sharp, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to retune the guitar, but we're only going to use the screwdriver and the claw in the back, and basically we're going to loosen the claw because the guitar is sharp. About a step and a half. Yep. We're going to sharpen, we're going to tune the guitar using only the screwdriver. And what I typically do in this case is I just check the low E and the high E, and I move the claw screws. Here, I'll show you. So we'll basically take this, and we're super sharp, so we're going to back it out, and we'll back this screw out and back this screw out evenly until we get the guitar in tune. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so after we've used the screwdriver to set the guitar in tune, we will now see that the guitar is in tune and the tremolo is 100% level in the body of the guitar. And then basically all you got to do is give it a quick final tune with the tuning keys, lock your nut down, and you're done. That is how you set up a Floyd Rose. It took under 10 minutes to do that and didn't have to fight back and forth with string tension and spring tension and mess around with it. So it's actually a pretty simple process. Basically, set up everything just a little bit tight, use your feeler gauges to set the flatness of your tremolo, tune the guitar with your tuning keys, then pull the feeler gauges out, the guitar will pop sharp, and then use your screwdriver to retune the guitar as close to pitch as possible with the screws in the claw. Once you do that, give it another fine tune and lock it all down. And that's basically it, man. That is how you set up a Floyd Rose in a fairly simple and quick way to do it. My name is Dylan. This is Dylan Talks Tone, and we will talk to you next time.